how should that message of aspiration, that message that we'll help you get rich, that message that we'll help you make money, how should it be expressed? What are the words that need to be spoken by Congress that will deliver that message to young Indians, but also to other Indians who want to escape poverty?
Now, what are the words to use? How do we articulate it? I think we need to think a little bit about it. We need to obviously sit down as a group and understand the importance of this and come up with a proper message. But even things like, making money is not bad. Be an entrepreneur. A dream to be wealthy. Something very straightforward, like go chase wealth. Go make money, but do it legitimately, do it fairly, and we are here to back you, to support you, be it through access to capital, be it through providing an ecosystem for you to be successful. And that is important.
Hello and welcome to a special interview for The Wire. There are many explanations for Congress's failure to win Haryana, but what's the real reason? Could it be that Congress failed to appeal to the state's urban population? And does the explanation for that lie in the fact that it did not convey an aspirational message? That's the view of my guest today. He's chairman of the All India Professionals Congress, Praveen Chakravarty. Praveen Chakravarty, in an analysis of the Haryana results which you shared with me, you point out that of the 65 rural seats, Congress won 33 with a 44% vote, whilst BJP only won 30 with 37. But the result was very different when it comes to the 25 urban seats. Congress only won 5 with a 30% vote, whilst the BJP won 18 with a 47% vote. So my starting question is simple. Why did Congress do so badly in urban Haryana?
Thank you, Karan, for having me. The data that you cited, I must first point out that it is credit to the Hindu newspaper and its data editor, Srinivasan Ramani. So this was data that was published in the Hindu. Now, these are facts, right? These are indisputable facts. The facts are that the Congress party actually did very well in rural seats, 65 rural seats in Haryana. But there was a 16 percentage vote gap between the Congress and the BJP in the 25 urban seats. And that is a massive difference. But guess what? This is not confined to Haryana. This is not unique to Haryana. Again, if I cite the Hindus' data, in the 2024 Lok Sabha elections, the same pattern repeated. In urban seats, the BJP had, at that time, there was a 14% gap in vote share between the BJP and the Congress in urban seats. Now, this is a pattern that has been repeating itself for some time. So the question to ask is, and this is not conjecture, this is actual data. So the question to ask is, why is there such a big gap between how urban voters versus rural voters perceive the Congress party against the BJP?
Absolutely. And what is your answer to that question? Why does Congress appeal so poorly to urban voters? Not just in Haryana, as you pointed out, but right across the country. Why does Congress appeal poorly to urban voters?
I obviously don't know the exact reason, but I think my hypothesis is that there is this politics of aspiration that I think perhaps the party should develop as a narrative. Now, let us be very clear. There is the politics of justice, social justice, economic justice, political justice that is very well established, that the Congress party and Mr. Rahul Gandhi has championed it. And that resonates very well with a certain section of people. Now, there is the other side, which is what I may call the aspirational class. And the politics of aspiration and what is the message for them. And I think it's also, I think, mistakenly perceived that the politics of justice can be anti-aspirational, can be contradictory to a politics of aspiration. And that is not necessarily, that is not the case. I know for a fact Mr. Rahul Gandhi believes that that is not the case. So perhaps we need to craft a narrative of a politics of aspiration for the urban voters.
You're saying a very important thing. You're saying Congress's message is usually about social justice. It's about issues that concern farmers. It's about caste related issues. It's about equality. It's about issues to do with justice in the biggest, broadest, most comprehensive sense. But you believe Congress needs also, in addition, to send out a message that is aspirational to appeal to urban Indians. That missing message is your explanation for why Congress is not appealing to urban voters.
Yes, and I want to be careful when we use the word urban. People immediately think of, cities like Delhi and Mumbai and Bangalore and people like you and me. No, here's an astounding piece of data. 10 years ago, the number of youth below 30 that were investors in the stock market was 500,000. Today, that is 40 million, 8,000% increase, 80 times growth in the number of people, youth below 30, that are investing in the stock markets. Now, what does that signify? Why are they investing in the stock markets? Because they want to be wealthy. They want they want prosperity. And these are youth, not restricted to Delhi and Mumbai and Bangalore and Chennai and the big cities. It's across nearly 300 cities and towns in India. So the word urban is actually more, I use it more in the context of aspiration. And here's the sad part. According to SEBI's report, 92% of these kids are losing money in the stock markets. But that is still not deterring them from going and taking this risk. This signifies aspiration. They're crying out loud, saying, we need to move up the economic ladder. We are aspiring to be wealthy, to earn money, to wear good clothes. What is the politics of aspiration for them?
Absolutely. And what you're saying is Congress needs to craft a message that appeals to the aspiration of these young Indians. They want to get rich. It's a legitimate ambition of theirs. As a political party, Congress needs to respond to that ambition, to that aspiration. In other words, you're saying that Congress, in addition to talking about justice, justice of all types, should also say, we are there as a party to help you get rich, legitimately and legally, but we can help you get rich. We have the answer to your desire and your aspiration. That is the missing message.
Yes, that is my belief. My belief is that I think it is important for the Congress party to tell these 40, 50 million youth below 30, saying, dream, aspire. It is okay. It is good to chase wealth. It is good to aspire to be wealthy and prosperous. It is not wrong. And I know this for a fact that Mr. Rahul Gandhi also believes this. But perhaps the emphasis on justice is somewhat seen as a contradiction or almost a counter or almost an aspiration killer, which it is not, which it is absolutely not, right? One can be Gandhian and one can still dream to be prosperous or aspirational. So the message should be dream, it is okay to chase wealth, but do it legitimately, do it fairly, and we will support you. We will back you in this.
But you're saying a second very important thing. It was there in this answer that sometimes the Congress emphasis on justice, on fairness, on equality is interpreted as anti aspiration, as a killer of aspiration, to use the phrase you use. That message of social justice now needs to be delivered in a way in which that interpretation is ruled out. You don't want a message of social justice, which is very important, very necessary, to be misinterpreted by urban, young, aspirational Indians. So you need to do both things: appeal to their aspiration, but also ensure that the other message of justice is not misunderstood.
Absolutely, absolutely. And how we appeal, what is the message we craft, and how we appeal to this section is very, very important. I believe that is our core belief. I know that at least that is the core belief of the leader, the tallest leader of the Congress Party. Now, how do we communicate that? Because see, sometimes it is, it is misinterpreted or misperceived that aspiration means support corporates or go to Davos or be be among the Davos crowd. Actually, that is, in fact, I would argue that is actually counter aspirational once again, because that goes into established, well entrenched, wealthy people. It is the youngsters below 30, 50 million, 40 million people who are going and punting on the stock market. For them, it's a very different medium that we have to use to craft to take our message, and we have to craft a different message.
Let me extend our argument one step further. So far, we're talking about appealing to the aspirations of young people, people, as you said, who are under 30, who dream of getting rich, of making money, of improving their lives. But in a sense, the aspiration to do well, to improve your life, to make money is a very common aspiration that runs through India. The vast majority of Indians are poor, they are not rich people, and their dream is to escape poverty and acquire money. That is something that applies, therefore, to not just the rich, not just the young, not just the under 30. It applies across the board to Indians. And the aspirational message, side by side with the social justice message, would reach everyone and touch all aspects of their personality. People want justice. Congress will deliver that. But people who are poor, even farmers, even in rural India, want to escape poverty. They want to become rich. And you need to appeal to that as well.
Yes, I agree. And the fact is, we're a young country, right? I mean, and the other example I will give is you take this whole industry of gig workers, right? These are 10 million people today. 10 million people, which are, I mean, 85% of them are below the age of 30. Again, what are they saying? This cuts across caste, this cuts across class, all identity, geography. And these are people that are either coming to urban towns or people saying we will take up a job so that we can earn and we need to live our lives. It's the Instagram audience or the Instagram crowd that I call them. And that for them, I think it is important for us to say that, yes, it is good. Justice does not mean we're against aspiration. When we fight against crony capitalism, that does not mean we're against wealth or business or industry or entrepreneurship. Cronyism is different from entrepreneurship. And I think that distinction, and while it may seem nuanced, it's actually not very nuanced. And I think most people understand that. And they would, in fact, people that really aspire to become wealthy will be against cronyism anyway, because that's blocking them. So I think that is the important message that we need.
Praveen Chakravarty, you're in a unique position. Not only have you thought fairly deeply and sincerely about the issue we are discussing, but you've also had the courage and the frankness to go public about it. It's not something congressmen, by and large, are actually addressing or saying. You're the first to say it publicly. So tell me, because your partyman will ask you this, how should that message of aspiration, that message that we'll help you get rich, that message that we'll help you make money, how should it be expressed? What are the words that need to be spoken by Congress that will deliver that message to young Indians, but also to other Indians who want to escape poverty? Give me an example.
Yeah, so first I do want to make it explicitly clear that while you refer to congressmen or congress leaders not in resonance with this message that I'm articulating, I know for a fact that Mr. Rahul Gandhi is. So he deeply believes that this is important, and these two are not in contradiction with each other. Now, what are the words to use? How do we articulate it? I think those we need to think a little bit about it. We need to obviously sit down as a group and understand the importance of this and come up with a proper message. But even things like making money is not bad. Be an entrepreneur. A dream to be wealthy. I mean, something very straightforward like go chase wealth, go make money, but do it legitimately, do it fairly, and we are here to back you, to support you, be it through access to capital, be it through providing an ecosystem for you to be successful. And that is important.
Your words remind me, and I don't mean this in any naughty sense, of Deng Xiaoping. When you said, dream to be wealthy, go make money, aspire to be rich. Deng Xiaoping famously said, it's glorious to be rich. And he said it at a time when China claimed to be a socialist country, not a capitalist country, and it wasn't a democracy. What you're saying is, in our own words, in our own language, in our own idiom, we need to express the same sort of sentiment and appeal to the same aspiration, because the desire to be wealthy is a reflection of the desire to break out of poverty and improve your position in the world, and is something everyone wants to do.
Yeah, and it worked out very well for Deng Xiaoping in China, didn't it? I think there's an important thing that you said there. While China is not a democracy, and they say the same thing, our challenge is to take the same message, a similar message, but in a democracy. And that is why my other P is about interpreting elections and election results, especially post facto.
I'll come to that in a moment's time because that is something else you discussed with me, and I think it's important. But let me pick up first on something you've said repeatedly in this interview. You believe that Rahul Gandhi not only understands what you're saying, but is in agreement with it. I take it you've discussed this with him.
In fact, I mean, no, I don't think I said it and he agreed, or I think it was a discussion that emerged. And these are facts, of course. I mean, so yes, to answer your question, absolutely. In fact, he strongly believes that while he has been rightly picking up the issue of cronyism, which I think is a serious issue in this country, that does not mean he's anti-business. That does not mean he's anti-corporates. That does not mean he's anti-prosperity. And that is very, very clear, and I can say that very categorically.
Do other top leaders in the Congress also concur? The Mallikarjun Kharges, the members of the CWC, do they concur, or are they still to be consulted and spoken to?
I have not had a discussion with some of those leaders, so I don't know what their views are on this.
Do you anticipate that they might be hesitant or reluctant? After all, it's a change in idiom, it's a change in message that they're not completely used to. It's one that's necessary and undeniably so, but might there be some hesitation and reluctance because people are sometimes reluctant to change?
I mean, but, see, there's also a generational kind of shift here, right? I mean, when I am again, like I say, when we talk about aspiration, I've repeatedly said in this interview, it's youth below 30. That's the dream they want to chase, and that's very. I mean, and it's not my conjecture; it's borne out in data. So I think there could be, we probably need to adapt better to that generation.
A lot of people hearing you, I would venture to say the vast majority of people hearing you will say Praveen Chakravarty is saying something new. He's saying it with a new freshness and candor. He's saying it with a new conviction. And this is a new face of Congress that we're seeing and a new voice that we're hearing. How do you respond to that?
No, I mean, I think there are a lot of such voices internally. I think some of us, kind of talk about it. Some of us have the avenues and the platforms and the opportunities to talk about it. Don't forget, I also chair the professionals wing of the party, which is kind of, which is much more in contact and touch with this segment of the demography that we are discussing. So I think there are avenues and platforms. I would not say that I am unique or alone or solo. I'm a solo traveler in the party in as far as this message is concerned. I think there are many others, perhaps of my generation and Mr. Gandhi's generation. In the
But
with
they are relatively silent up till now. They may have these thoughts in their heads and in their hearts, but they haven't spoken publicly. You are the first to be candid, frank, open, and courageous and express them in public.
I don't know why it should be courageous or anything. I mean, in fact, whatever I'm saying is actually in the interest of the party, in the interest of the country. I want the Congress Party to do well, to do better in elections. I want us to resonate better with voters. It's. I don't think there's any crime that's being committed here.
Okay.
Hi, I'm Karan Thapar. Over the last few years, I hope you've been watching my program, The Interview on the Wire. During that period, I've interviewed doctors, politicians, businessmen, scientists, authors, and even the occasional Nobel laureate. For me, it's been exciting. I hope it's been enjoyable for you. But these, as you know, are tough times, and if this program is going to remain bold, independent, and sometimes even defiant, then I think we need your support. At the end of the day, it's a truism, but editorial independence is best defended by the viewers. So if you would like this program to remain the way it is, forthright, outspoken, and interesting, then would you consider supporting us? All you have to do is to click on the description at the bottom. But more than anything else, I hope you will continue to watch the interview. Your viewership means an awful lot to me.
Let me now come to something else. It's the second issue that you wanted to talk about, which I said I would take up in a moment's time. The truth is that there have been multiple explanations for Congress's failure to win Haryana on television, in the newspapers, in the magazines. But they've touched on issues such as the over reliance on Jats, on the internal differences between people like Huda, Selja, and Surjewala, on Congress rebel candidates, on ticket distribution, on EVMs, on the difference in money between the parties. Very few, literally very few, I can only think of one in the Hindu, have actually focused on what you've spoken about, the urban factor and the need to appeal aspirationally. How misleading and how mistaken are the other explanations?
You know, Karan, I mean, I don't want to sound abstract here, but I do want to mention that, one of my favorite kind of contemporary philosophers is Karl Popper. And Popper has this theory of falsification or falsifiability. And his whole idea is that, if a certain, I mean, that's how science progresses. Science progresses if you're able to falsify something. So I've also read a lot of explanations. I mean, there's just so much punditry post facto about the Haryana election, from academics in foreign universities to senior Delhi media and print media editors. They're all, if you actually look at it, if you think about it, they're all focused on what I would call election management. They're all about this kind of micro, about charts and alliances and vote cutters. Then here's a simple thing. What explains such a large gap between urban and rural? Now, again, I want to put a caveat. I'm saying all of this under the assumption that the results that we know as we know it are accurate, and it has not been tampered with, as there is, on that basis. If you just look at the numbers, that's a fact. The fact is there's a 16-17% vote share gap in urban seats, and in rural seats, the Congress did better. So my simple question is, do all these vote cutters and alliances and election management, did they impact only the urban seats? Did they not impact the rural seats? How is it that we did better? So I mean, a lot of them are falsifiable. And actually, a lot of these explanations that come up, it's true in every election. I mean, I have a simple challenge to all of these people. Take any election. There will always be a bunch of seats where some third party candidate or independent candidate has taken away some votes and some party has lost. There's always some, caste alliance and alliance factors that have played a role in. But we have to be intellectually honest here. What explains such a large gap? This is the only thing where I see there's such a stark difference in vote share.
Absolutely. As you say, intellectual honesty requires that you recognize, accept, and then respond to that huge gap between Congress's performance in urban Haryana and, in fact, in urban India, because it's not just unique to Haryana, and Congress's performance in rural Haryana and other rural constituencies elsewhere in the country. And when you focus on that gap, you realize the need that is missing is an aspirational message that will attract urban voters and young ones in particular. But you went one step further when we talked before this recording. You said not only is much of the analysis mistaken and misleading, and it therefore misses the point, but you also felt it could be harmful. Can you explain that point?
It is. And this is an issue that I've written about and I feel very strongly about. I think the starting point for any post-election analysis should be, at least the ones that are serious commentators should be, that it is okay to not have an explanation than have a false or a misleading explanation. And I think that should be the starting point. It is okay to say, we don't know. We don't understand what happened. Rather than to kind of come up with all these sorts of factors attributing to the laws or an electoral outcome. And I have seen this repeatedly. And this is extremely dangerous for a country because as political leaders, as politicians, people in public life, we do consume a lot of these analysis, supposedly coming from serious commentators such as academics and editors. And then we start to see that it is very misleading. And I can give you an example. An example that I faced internally was around the old pension scheme. This whole narrative that was built that the Congress party won Himachal Pradesh election because of their promise of old pension scheme. And hence, it should be a promise that is there in every state election. And in fact, I wrote about it. Empirically, there's simply no evidence for it. But if we started to believe it, then guess what? It leads to policy consequences. Leads to policy, and that's just one example. And I see this repeatedly. Be it in terms of caste politics, be it in terms of, organizational battles, be it in terms of, micromanagement of elections, while we miss the forest for the trees. And it is very, very dangerous to have false and misleading explanations as a country, as a democracy.
You're absolutely right. Analysis of election results must focus on the forest, not on the multitude of trees. And what is missing when you don't look at the forest is the realization that Congress failed to win Haryana because it failed to win urban votes in sufficient number. It failed to win urban seats in sufficient number. And the explanation for that failure is it didn't have an aspirational appeal. It needs one. It needs to be able, side by side with its appeal in terms of justice, to also let people know we support your desire and your ambition to get rich. We will help you legally and legitimately. We will support your aspiration and your ambition. Both messages need to go out together. They don't contradict each other. I thank you for speaking out. I believe that you are the first in your party to do it clearly. You may not be, as you say, the only person and unique and solo in thinking along these lines, but you are certainly the first to do so publicly. And I thank you for that. Take care.
I do want to clarify one thing, Karan. I do want to clarify. I don't want to come across as, oh, I have the answer for the Haryana loss or the electoral loss. Okay, I'm pointing out that there is this stark gap. And it is, there needs to be an explanation.
Absolutely. I
I'm
don't
also
think
pointing out the other reasons that have been so far, so-called, in the media are falsifiable. They're falsifiable, and hence they're not correct. So I don't want to come across as, oh, I know the answer for the Haryana laws or any of these. So I want to clarify that very clearly.
absolutely, and I think that is clear. But you also know what Congress should be doing if it wants to win those urban votes and seats that it is so far unable to win in the same number and same quantity as the rural votes and seats it so easily wins. And that's the important part of this interview. You believe you have the answer to that specific problem. I thank you for talking to me. Take care. Stay safe.
Thank you. Thank you. I believe I have a thought about this. I don't know if that's the answer.
Okay, a thought that is so far one that hasn't been heard and needs to be heard. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Karan Thapar. Over the last few years, I hope you've been watching my program, The Interview on the Wire. During that period, I've interviewed doctors, politicians, businessmen, scientists, authors, and even the occasional Nobel laureate. For me, it's been exciting. I hope it's been enjoyable for you. But these, as you know, are tough times, and if this program is going to remain bold, independent, and sometimes even defiant, then I think we need your support. At the end of the day, it's a truism, but editorial independence is best defended by the viewers. So if you would like this program to remain the way it is, forthright, outspoken, and interesting, then would you consider supporting us? All you have to do is to click on the description at the bottom. But more than anything else, I hope you will continue to watch the interview. Your viewership means an awful lot to me.